So I've been getting quite a few questions about how we analyse exam board content and especially exams themselves from people. So I thought I'd show you this. This document, I can only really show you these two tabs because this one's a little bit secretive because it's part of our National Diagnostic Exam Planning. But I'll show you how we do this. If we take something very simple, AQA GCSE PE in this case, I know that every question 1 on paper 1 2018, paper 2 2018, paper 1 2019 and so on up to 2020, we know that each time it's a multiple choice 1 mark question. So if you notice here, every question is allocated 1 mark. We also know that this has been the command. We also know that this has been the topic area covered and of course 1 mark allocated information processing over here on paper 2, for example. And we can do that for every single question on every paper. Okay, so what that spits out for us is for every paper we get this sort of very base data analysis in terms of content, in terms of weighting, in terms of skills, and it spits out for us this summary of information. I think this is what people will be particularly interested in. Let's just focus on this sort of purpley area up here first. We are able to tell that identify is the top ranked skill with AQA GCSE PE, but we can also see here that there tends to be 25 marks worth on paper 1s and tends to be 18 marks worth on paper 2s. So we know that it's a particularly important skill for paper 1 and it's also important for paper 2, but there's a different weighting. The percentage of total marks is over here. This is a raw mark over here. Another one we could look at is explain. This is kind of an interesting one. It's quite an important skill, 17% of all marks, second most important skill, but we tend to get more on paper 1 and fewer on paper 2. Quite interesting in itself. And if we look at something like justify, you get the reverse trend. Justify is not really used that much on paper 1. I think they tend to justify components of fitness to a particular activity, but on paper 2, where they're looking at all kinds of justifications, whether it's things like the skill acquisition characteristic classification of skill, for example. So this command, and it's important, and we can see that. So we know that's the breakdown of skills. Excuse my machine bleeping. We also look at mark range breakdown. Okay, so we also know that, for example, we get most questions on paper 1, or most marks available are from 2 mark questions, 22 marks worth, 11 of them on average. Okay, but on paper 2, we get the most of our marks coming from 4 markers. So really important that teachers cover 4 mark questions, especially on paper 2, and obviously we can analyse that. That bleeping's annoying. And then finally, guys, what we do is we spit out this kind of ranking of which topic areas are most commonly assessed. So for example, if you look at the ranked 1 content here for paper 1, which is the green content, I know that on average there are 7.5% of the overall marks on components of fitness, and that is almost matched by our 6.4%, which is coming from methods of training, and another 3% that's coming from fitness testing. So it's really, really important that students can cover those really high-ranked areas in a lot of detail. And I mean, that's not to say we neglect any others, but of course we want to make absolutely categorically sure that those rhythms are understood. And of course we can look at those rhythms for paper 2. In this case, we know that the rhythm for paper 2 is that sponsorship and media and sport is the most commonly assessed topic. Okay, we can also try and look at, is something due or not. I don't find that particularly useful, but that's there too. So I thought people might appreciate that, and I'd be interested in your comments.